You're graduating college. It's your senior year. You're so excited. You've done all the work, but now you realize you don't really have a job lined up. What do you do now? Well, today we're going to talk about that. Welcome to Tiny Chair Talks, where we have big conversations in tiny chairs. Today with us, we have a very special guest, Justin Metz. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm good too. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So tell us, what do you do?
So I'm a sophomore theology major at Southern Adventist University. Loving it. As far as hobbies go, I like to play basketball, I like to play sports, hang out with friends, basic college guy stuff. But that's
Sweet.
me.
I love it. Thanks, man. We're so glad that you're here. And I'd love to hear from you. How many college students do you feel like are concerned about their jobs?
Honestly, like a lot. Probably like more so than not, because there's only 3 really majors that guarantee you a job. That's like theology, nursing, and pre-med maybe, or something with teacher. But for people who are getting a degree for the sole fact of trying to get accepted into graduate school, so I guess pre-med could be included in that, it can be really stressful, because if you don't get into it initially, you're like, okay, well now I have a biology degree, and now I have a history degree trying to get into law school or something like that, and I'm not getting in. What do I do? Where do I go? Does anyone care if I have this music degree? Does anyone care if I have this film degree?
Yeah.
It's stressful.
I know exactly what you're describing. I have felt that way myself in the past. I'm wondering, how should we deal with those stresses? What is the best thing to do in order to find a sense of peace during that time of not knowing what I'm going to do with my job?
I think it depends on how close you are to graduating. Because if you have a few years off, take every opportunity you can, even if it's not related to what you're doing per se. Just taking those opportunities, I mean, obviously within your means, but taking those opportunities will give you a feel to maybe if maybe I don't want to do what I'm currently doing, maybe there is something else that God is leading me towards. And then getting in closer, to graduating, just trying to really make use of your network that you've built over the years at college. And that's something you can do building up to it as well, is just network, just get to know everyone, work at different summer camps.
Yeah, I think that's key. Working during the summer and networking. I did an internship during my time in school, and that's really what helped me get a job after I graduated. How do you think a person can even find an internship though?
Finding an internship. Well, I think one way to do is ask the people in your department and ask the professors, be like, hey, what did you do when you were going through these steps? And then also taking those opportunities, because usually one leads to the other. And God will oftentimes reward our faithfulness of putting in that effort and being like, all right, I'm really putting myself out here, God, you're gonna have to cover the rest. And he's like, all right, I got you.
Yeah, there has to be a spiritual help in the process.
And a spiritual motivation for it.
Describe that. What do you mean by spiritual motivation?
So, there's this phrase that kind of got coined at Southern last year, and it was every major has a mission, which yeah, amen. And so I think the spiritual motivation for it is that, I'm using my talents for God. It's kind of like the tithing one, I'm using what God has given me back for God. And oftentimes, God will see that and be like, all right, so how can I make the best use of what I've given Justin or given John or whatever? What's the best opportunity I can put them in?
Yeah. So we're talking about, that spiritual motivation. That's really powerful and beautiful. How about for the person who has all the spiritual motivation, but they're graduating and they need to make a living? What do you do at that moment?
Say just take whatever you can get and work up from there. Honestly, the only way to go is to, just a lot of prayer, a lot of dedication, and not losing focus on why you started in the first place.
Yeah, that's really key. I think prayer does have a really big part of it. There has to be that spiritual help as we're trying to move forward. And then also, we need to do our part too, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like when they say, I can pray not to get in a car accident, for example, but I also got to do my part, following the speed limit, putting my seatbelt on, doing those things, doing my part. How would you say someone can start doing their part when it comes to finding a job?
I would say, just being intentional about the things you do, and not assuming that everything is going to go just how you think it is. Because sometimes, there are curveballs in life, and a lot of those could be avoided just by planning for the future. I don't know if you've heard that phrase. It's like, if you fail to prepare, then you prepare to fail, right?
Yeah.
There's always a little bit more that you can do to prepare. And I think the biggest way to prepare is keeping that daily relationship with God. Like prayer equals prepare. Like, I don't know, something like that.
That's cool. I like that. That you got to copyright that phrase. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So how about dealing with it emotionally, though? Maybe the hurt that it causes to feel like I'm graduating and I don't have a career lined up. How should someone deal with it in their heart or in their mind?
I think one thing is acknowledging the things that you've done well. Because you can sit there and be like, man, I'm a failure. I'm a loser. Like, my siblings are doing this, my friends are doing this. Like, I've worked so hard and I've tried so hard my whole life, but it's just come to nothing. And then oftentimes we get really introspective and we're like, well, like I guess I just can't do anything well. And when in reality, that's not the case. When in reality, you're a very talented person. You've gotten really good grades. You've worked really hard. You're like, people love you. And I would say one thing is to realize, like, this isn't the end. Like, God's led you in the past. He's going to continue to lead you. Like Ellen White, she has that quote where it's like, we have nothing to fear for the future except forgetting how God has led us in the past.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that is key, remembering that God is still doing something. Yeah, I think that's really good. And that's how I've had to deal with it as well. Like, I remember when this doesn't have to do with finding a job, but finding a school that I wanted to go to. I graduated high school many years ago, and I didn't know what I was going to do after high school. I was like, I don't have good enough grades. I don't know where God is going to take me. But then I realized, like, He had the doors. All I had to do was step in front of it and walk through.
Exactly.
And that was a really, really awesome experience for me. So you're talking about dealing with it emotionally. We can trust God's plan.
Exactly. And also trusting our individual ability as well when these opportunities do come up, like going into them confidently, and being like, hey, that past one didn't work out, but this one I got it.
Yeah, that's good. Remembering the past and how He's helped us throughout. So you talked about networking, and that's a big word, and it might even be harder to network when it comes to, I don't know, COVID-19 and how that's changed the dynamic of how we meet people. How should we effectively connect with others?
Like on an individual level, or just like
in the context of finding a job, being able to seek out opportunities for a career, how can we network with others?
I would say being the same consistent person 24/7, showing the same face to everyone, because that really will get you that reputation, of being reliable, of being trustworthy. And, because all it really takes to get a job is be like, hey, I know this guy, he thinks I'm a good guy, and his coworker thinks I'm a good guy, I'm in. And then also that'll set up like your kids for the future, because they'd be like, okay, well, this person's dad is a great guy, I went to college with him, or I worked with him. Like, these are all like when it comes to networking, connecting with people, it's the little things that matter. Not the GPA, like not the whole show thing, not the big accomplishments. It's the little things. It's the 10%.
Oh, that's good. So it's the authentic relationship, seeking others out. Yeah, and I also think about seeking someone who is in the field already, like a professor.
Yeah.
'Cause we're talking about college students who are concerned about finding a career in their last year. We have advisors, right? We have people around us who have gone through the ropes, who know people in those fields, who we can talk to.
Yeah.
How has it been beneficial to you to seek advice from maybe someone in administration or like a professor at Southern?
It's been really, really good. Especially when you realize that you can ask multiple people to like all mentor different sides of you. So like for Dr. Hartman, I'm like, okay, this is my career path. Okay, how am I supposed to go through like this specific theology career path? Because that's his gig. He's the pro at it. And then I ask someone else, like maybe my mother or my father, like who are professionals in what they do, and be like, okay, guys, this is how like my personal life is going in the midst of like my career and of my schoolwork. How exactly do I handle this? And then sometimes, asking peers can help as well. Just being like, hey guys, I don't really know how to do this. Like, I don't really know how to connect with this person. Like, I'm just trying, like, what are some places that you work that maybe I can work? Like, for example, my girlfriend recommended me to work at camp with her. And I was like, that would be great. That would be a great networking opportunity. I worked at camp before, but this one's a different camp, And so it can all start to tie together. And I think one consistent message that I've gotten across from all of like the different mentors and peers is just be intentional and just give it your all, which sounds really stereotypical, but if everyone says it, that means like, if you see a lot of these people who have been successful in like their networking, like that's one thing that they all kind of say, just be intentional, be consistent.
Yeah, and like you said, give it your all.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to give it our all sometimes, I think maybe we're disappointed and the disappointment prohibits us from giving it our all. Yeah. Have you ever felt disappointed when it came to your job?
Yeah, I have. So I led a life group for 3 semesters, freshman year, sophomore year. It was like beginning of 2020, 2021, beginning of 2022. And that was when I was leading my life group. And, in the beginning, we got everyone, got the whole group. And then towards the last few weeks of my last semester of leading it, it was just like me, a few other people. And I was getting disappointed. I was like, what's going on? Why isn't this going how it used to be? Like, I'm putting in so much effort. But in that moment, God used my disappointment to redirect like where I was looking for him. God was kind of like, I'm doing a new thing. Like I'm wanting, like it's time for something more. And then a few weeks later, I got an email to be a life group coach. And it was just the next step. And so oftentimes like the disappointments we face is just God trying to redirect what we're focusing on.
I think we could say disappointment directs to destiny.
Amen.
Hey, we gotta copyright that.
Yeah, hey, we gotta coin that.
Yeah, so in describing disappointment, we're talking about our own struggle. Mm-hmm. How about feeling like we're gonna disappoint a parent or disappoint a loved one who was expecting us to have a career, but it seems like we're not entering into that place? How can we deal with the potential disappointment someone else might face?
That's hard. That's tough, and that's something that I've kind of struggled with a little bit. Like looking to the future, like what if it doesn't all work out, But then I wonder, like whose opinion really comes first? Like God knows I've been faithful, and in their hearts they know I've been faithful too, Like if they really are like my loved one, they are gonna stick with me, Like they are gonna see me through. They're gonna see me out.
Yeah, we've got to have a sense of trust that they're still going to be on board during that process.
Exactly.
What do you think God does when we're experiencing disappointment?
I think he reminds us that, like we don't have to put so much pressure on ourselves. God doesn't expect us to be perfect. He just wants us to be faithful. Like, just look at Elijah. He rained down fire from heaven, and I would go as far to say that's a spiritual high. And then like, it seems like just a few days later, he's in like a random ditch in like a creek, and he's like, God, I literally want to die. And then God's like, okay, just take a nap, eat some food, get a drink, just kind of take a break for a little bit. Like, it's okay, like it's okay to not be like on it all the time, it's okay to not always succeed.
Yeah, and I think that story of Elijah connects really well with how we might be feeling now. Maybe it feels like because I don't have a job lined up, I am in that ditch. Because I don't have a career path to follow now that I'm graduating, it might feel like I'm in a pit and somewhere really dark. But you're saying God tells us, relax, have a snack.
Yeah.
Trust in me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And so how would you conclude telling someone who, once again, doesn't know what's next, but they need to find something?
I would say, just continue to remember that past and continue to remember like the strengths that you have and the strengths that God has given you with. And then, even if it's not specific to your career path at the moment, if you see something that, you're like, hey, that could be a potential for me to land somewhere else. That could be a stepping stone. That could be a catalyst. Take it.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you, Justin, for giving us your time and your wisdom.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
And we'll share with you at this moment, if you're concerned about finding that job, first of all, we want to let you know it's okay. That struggle does not make you a bad person. We want to let you know that God has a plan for your life. Continue moving forward. Thank you so much for watching Tiny Chair Talks, where we have big conversations in tiny chairs. We'll see you again very soon. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thanks for joining. We want to encourage you to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and share it with someone else. Also, if you want to see some more content, check out either one of these two videos.